Types of scams and attacks. In this section, we will review real-life scams and attacks to raise awareness about the diverse tactics used by cybercriminals. By understanding these scams and attacks, you will learn how to spot them and take appropriate action to avoid becoming a victim. Reviewing real-life scams and gain awareness. Cybercriminals employ a wide array of scams and attacks to deceive individuals and organizations, ranging from elaborate schemes to simple but effective tactics. By reviewing real-life examples of scams and attacks, you will gain valuable insights into the methods used by cyber adversaries to exploit vulnerabilities and manipulate victims. These examples may include phishing emails impersonating trusted entities, fraudulent websites masquerading as legitimate services, deceptive social engineering tactics, and sophisticated malware infections targeting unsuspecting users.
A couple in Golden scammed out of nearly $140,000 through a sophisticated phishing scam. The question now, can Chase Bank help them recover their money? By the time a Jefferson County man realized that the Chase Bank fraud team that he was talking to was actually the scammers themselves, he was out more than $137,000.
Yeah, problem solver investigative reporter Rob Lowe spoke to the FBI. The couple scammed and Chase Bank about a fraud so clever that it could happen to any of us.
Yeah, $137,000 is a loss nobody can absorb. Chase Bank is still investigating to see if it can recover any of the funds, but that money's likely overseas. Scott and Kate Zoll want you to know what happened to them so that it doesn't happen to you.
So there were 11 wire transfers in total, 2 on our personal accounts, 9 on our business accounts. We lost close to $140,000.
How devastating is that for you, Kate?
Every day we just wake up and feel like we're living kind of a nightmare right now.
What happened to Scott and Kate Zoll began with a text to Scott's phone, supposedly from Chase Alerts, asking, "Did you attempt to send a wire transfer for the amount of $4,500?
At that point, before I did anything else, I reached out to my business partners and asked if they had initiated a wire. They had not, so I then called the bank branch to see if they could see any activity on my account.
That was smart. Chase Bank immediately gave him the number to its fraud department. But what happened next was his big mistake.
At that point, I acknowledged the text that came through said no, we did not initiate this wire. Got a text back immediately saying somebody from the Chase fraud team will be in contact with you. Probably within 30 seconds, I received a phone call from the exact number that the branch had just given me.
What Scott never guessed is the call from Chase Alerts saying a representative will be contacting you shortly was actually the scammers who had spoofed the Chase fraud number, leaving Scott to think he was talking with Chase Bank.
And at one point I even called the Chase line because the phone number dropped, and I called the Chase fraud line. And I was frustrated with actual Chase because they couldn't see the conversations that were happening. And within a minute, you know, the people that were scamming us actually called back, and I'm like, great, these people know what they're talking about. I'm gonna go back to this call.
Scott isn't sure how, but says the scammers already had his bank account number and knew how much money he had. All they needed from Scott was a one-time passcode that he did in fact receive via text from real Chase, only to then unwittingly share it with the scammer who was pretending to be Chase Bank. That phone call would cost him $137,130.
Just wake up and start all over again to try to accept that all our money's gone. And I'm not hopeful at this point in the journey that we're gonna see any of it again.
The most recent FBI stats show in 2022, 405 Colorado phishing victims lost nearly $500,000, and 467 spoofing victims lost $2 million.
The technology does exist that they can spoof phone numbers from anywhere in the world and make it look like it's a Chase fraud department.
Brian Blosser is a special agent with the FBI who says phishing and spoofing scams are getting more sophisticated by the day.
Be very leery of unsolicited text messages, phone calls, or a pop-up or an email that you've got a fraudulent charge in your account.
Special Agent Blosser says once a person realizes they've been scammed, do exactly what the Zolls did. Contact your bank with a number you trust, either from your bank statement or the back of your credit card, to initiate a wire recall, and file a report with the FBI at ic3.gov.
The best advice that I would relay would be, hey, take a second, because a lot of the times the scammers are going to try to create the persona that there's an urgent need. You have to act now.
If I would have just slowed down and looked at some of the other indicators, but We're talking, over $100,000. Like, you want to act fast, or you think you need to.
In a statement, Chase Bank told the problem solvers, these types of scams are heartbreaking. Beware of new contacts asking you for codes, access to your device, or to send them, yourself, or anyone else money to prevent fraud. Chase, other banks, law enforcement, and technology companies won't ask you to do this, but scammers will. Like cash, wires are final payments and are rarely successfully recalled once sent.
I have to work 10 times harder than I was working, to get back to where I was, not even ahead, just to get back to where we were.
There is a special place in hell for the people that can do this to someone.
For those of you wondering about FDIC insurance up to $250,000, that doesn't apply to scams. That only helps if your bank has gone out of business. The Zolls say they're frustrated with Chase Bank. It took 11 days for them to get a case manager, and that was only after the problem solvers called Chase. We have more tips on how to protect yourself at our website, KDVR.com. Rob Lowe, Fox 31.
Imposter scams continue to be a really big threat.
Scammers are going to scam, and now they are taking advantage of tax season to try to steal people's money. Christina Flores is here with a warning.
Yeah, the FTC is warning consumers beware of any messages, emails, texts, phone calls from the IRS, because those are not from the IRS. They're from scammers who are trying to steal your identity and eventually steal your money.
If you're receiving an email or a text message or a social media request out of the blue, know that the IRS does not initiate contact this way with taxpayers.
Timothy Johnston is with the Better Business Bureau. He says do not click on any links that come with a text or an email. These scammers are looking to get your personal information and to steal your identity and your money. If you want to verify any of your official information with the IRS, go to irs.gov. If you need to talk to a real IRS worker, you can find a phone number on that official website.
The IRS is not going to make that initial contact with you using a text message or an email or a phone call. They'll go the old-fashioned way, using the U.S. Postal Service.
If you want more information on protecting yourself from these scams, or if you think you've fallen victim to such a scam and you need help, go to the FTC's identitytheft.gov website. Also, there's another way to protect yourself from scammers who could steal your personal info and then use it to file a tax return. You can ask the IRS to issue you an IP PIN number. You'd have to renew that PIN number every year, though, before you file a tax return. Jim and Jamie, back to you.
News is asking a security question tonight that deals with your cell phone. How did a Maryland woman lose $17,000 even though she had two-factor authentication on all of her accounts?
Security experts tell iTeam investigator Scott Taylor that it's a lot simpler than you could ever imagine.
We all know criminals have multiple ways to steal your identity, but 7 News is sending out a warning. SIM card swapping almost cost Sharon Hussey of Bethesda, Maryland, $17,000.
It was absolutely stunning. It was just like my heart fell to the floor.
It all started when Hussey got this email thanking her for a purchase of a new phone at Verizon. Minutes later, her contact information at Bank of America changed. The problem? She didn't do either transaction and had two-factor authentication on her accounts.
The bottom just kind of dropped out.
She called Bank of America, but her cell phone was no longer active. An online attempt required a verification code her phone couldn't receive. Within minutes, her $17,000 was missing.
Initially, I didn't realize how big of a deal it was. I thought I had handled it on the first day by calling the bank, calling Verizon, figuring things out.
Hussey tells 7 News Verizon said someone in California walked into one of its stores and purchased a new phone along with a new SIM card and used Hussey's current phone number to activate the new phone. When the new phone was turned on, Hussey's phone went dead. Hussey used a landline to contact Bank of America, but it was too late. $17,000 vanished.
And I have two-factor authentication, which ended up kind of biting me in the face when it all came down to it. That was the thing that completely hijacked everything. They had complete control of my phone, and there was nothing I could do about it.
SIM card swapping has been around for the past 4 years. But security experts tell 7 News this type of scam has recently skyrocketed.
In 2021, roughly 6 times as many dollars were stolen through this as the years before.
Online security expert Alex Kulisi with Umail says the scam is simple.
The bad guys convince the telephone company that they have the SIM for your phone number. And the minute the phone company does the swap, they're in control of your number.
Scammers then use two-factor authentication through your cell phone to access your accounts.
If you've been doing two-factor authentication everywhere to your mobile phone number, if someone else gets that mobile phone number, they can authenticate as if they're you.
Over the next 3 months, Bank of America denied Hussey's claim, saying it can't be honored. Eventually, the bank reversed its initial decision and refunded the $17,000. Bank of America tells 7 News, "We take identity theft very seriously. We are always working to improve the experience, knowing that resolving identity theft issues is a complicated process." Verizon said in an email, when potential fraud is brought to its attention, it works quickly to resolve the matter. And due to customer privacy laws, it can't share specifics in its investigation. Here are several ways you can better protect yourself from SIM card swapping.
So the number one thing is to make sure you get a PIN or a number porting PIN with your carrier. That requires a special code that hopefully only you have that needs to be given to the carrier before they can do the SIM swap.
Wow, scary stuff. Some more tips so you can avoid this scam. Try to use authenticator apps or those face scans that we're all now using instead of a text code. Keep your personal information hidden and don't post online how much money you have, property, or assets. For the I-Team, Scott Taylor, 7 News.
Learn how to spot these scams and what to do for each type of scam. Spotting scams and attacks requires a combination of vigilance, skepticism, and critical thinking. By familiarizing yourself with common red flags and warning signs associated with different types of scams, you can better protect yourself and others from falling victim to cyber threats. Additionally, understanding the appropriate actions to take when encountering a scam is essential for minimizing potential harm and mitigating risks. This may involve verifying the authenticity of communication, avoiding clicking on suspicious links or attachments, reporting suspicious activity to relevant authorities, and implementing security best practices to prevent further exploitation. Congratulations on completing this section. To continue, simply click on the Next Steps button located at the bottom of your screen. Now, let's move on to the next part. We'll see you there.